It had been years since anyone lived in the old Carmichael mansion. Tucked away at the edge of town, the house stood in decay, abandoned after the tragic disappearance of the Carmichael family. No one knew what happened, and no one dared to go near. But Lucy, a curious thrill seeker, had heard the stories and couldn't resist the allure of exploring the forgotten house. One misty afternoon, she decided to visit the mansion with her camera, hoping to capture something unusual. The iron gates creaked as she pushed them open, and the air felt heavy, as if the house itself was watching her. The stone path leading to the entrance was cracked and overgrown with weeds, but Lucy pressed on, determined to see what lay inside. The front door groaned as it opened, revealing a grand hallway covered in dust and cobwebs. Her footsteps echoed through the house as she walked cautiously, the air thick with an unsettling silence. She could hear nothing but the wind brushing through the broken windows and the occasional creak of old wood. As she wandered deeper into the mansion, something strange happened. She began to hear faint footsteps behind her, slow and deliberate, as if someone or something was following her. She stopped and listened, her heart racing. But when she turned around, the hallway was empty. Shrugging it off, she continued exploring, telling herself it was just her imagination playing tricks on her. The sound of footsteps returned, this time closer and more distinct. Panic started to set in, but Lucy pressed forward, gripping her camera tightly as she reached the second floor. The footsteps followed her again. She paused in front of an old bedroom door. It was slightly ajar, and a cold breeze seemed to be coming from inside. As she pushed the door open, the room felt even colder than the rest of the house. Dust floated in the air, and a large bed stood in the center, draped in a faded, moth-eaten blanket. Suddenly, she heard them again. Footsteps. But this time they were not behind her. They were in the room. Lucy spun around, eyes wide with fear. No one was there. She backed up against the wall, trying to calm her pounding heart. Then in the mirror across the room, she saw something that made her blood freeze. A faint figure, tall and shadowy, stood at the doorway, its face hidden, but its presence undeniable. It didn't move, just stood there watching her. Her breath caught in her throat as the figure slowly raised a hand and pointed directly at her. In a panic, Lucy grabbed her camera, snapping a photo. The flash lit up the room for a brief second, and when the light faded, the figure was gone. Her relief was short-lived. The footsteps returned, now fast, erratic, and all around her. Desperate, Lucy fled the room, sprinting down the stairs as the sound of footsteps followed her every move. She didn't stop until she reached the front door, yanking it open and stumbling outside. When she finally reached the safety of the street, Lucy turned back to look at the mansion. The house stood still, cold and indifferent. But in the window of the second floor, she swore she could see the shadowy figure staring down at her. The next morning, when she reviewed the photos she had taken, her heart sank. In every image, there were faint figures in the background, watching her. But what terrified her most was the last photo. The figure in the doorway wasn't just pointing at her, it was smiling.